Thank you so much, Filipita. Plenipotentiary for WordPress proletariat affairs, yeah. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for coming to my talk. It was actually at WordCamp Sydney exactly 1 year ago that I was standing on stage, actually in the other building. I was giving a talk about Gutenberg when I had this great idea for a product. Actually, someone in the audience around this area during the Q&A time put their hand up and said, so I was talking about Gutenberg, it hadn't been released yet. I was sort of talking about get ready for it, it's coming out soon. And they said, I use advanced custom fields and have a particular workflow that I use for all my client sites. How is that going to work with Gutenberg? And I said, I don't know. But that inspired a thought. I sort of realized maybe there's an opportunity here for a product, right? Maybe there should be something out there for WordPress that lets you create custom blocks just as easy as ACF lets you create custom meta. So today, in my talk, I'm going to talk to you about that story, about how BlockLab came to be. We launched, we've got a whole bunch of customers, we've got a bunch of press, all of that sort of thing. It's been quite a successful journey since that day at WordCamp Sydney last year. So I'm going to talk about that story, and along the way, I'm going to give you 3 ideas, 3 sort of tools in my toolbox that I used that worked out really, really well for me. Now, of course, not everything that I tried on BlockLab worked out well, but these 3 things really, I think, contributed quite a lot to the success of the product. So let me just give you a bit of background about myself. I've been in WordPress for a very long time, maybe 12 years or so. And in 2014, I was lucky enough to be given the opportunity to join a plugin startup called Stream. And Stream was this plugin that tracked all of the admin activity that happens in WordPress, kept a log of it, and it did really well. We launched version 1. I sort of was one of the lead developers on that, and then we started working on version 2. I moved into like this product management role, still doing a bit of development, and then after version 2, we got acquired, which was fantastic, right? We got acquired by this big agency. They're one of the VIP agencies called XWP. And they're sort of distributed WordPress agency around the world, work with a lot of enterprise clients. And I moved into a leadership position there as Director of Product and Innovation. And in that role, I got to experiment a lot with product. I got to try a lot of things that didn't work. I got to do a lot of sort of online courses. I did Seth Godin's Alt MBA. And I also started this thing called Tide. And Tide was this product that would scan WordPress.org and look at all the plugins and themes and identify coding standards issues, security vulnerabilities, performance optimization opportunities. And a couple of years ago at WordCamp US, I sat in a room with Matt Mullenweg and negotiated the acquisition of Tide into WordPress.org. So now if you want to learn about Tide, it's part of the WordPress project. You can go to WordPress.org/Tide. That was a really exciting time for me. Shortly after that, I was at XWP helping with the contributor team who was contributing back into WordPress core. I was sort of helping to manage all of our Gutenberg contributions. And that's how I ended up on stage at WordCamp Sydney, talking about Gutenberg. So now you know that story. And at this point, when this idea happened, it took me maybe a month to get there, but I actually left my job at XWP to work on this new idea. And you already have a bit of an idea of what it is. It lets you create custom blocks within the WordPress admin in a similar way to how ACF works. And we called that plugin BlockLab. Okay, so now you've got the backstory. So I want to introduce to you a few ideas, let's see here, that I used along the way. And these are ideas I've been developing over time. let's start with this one. Maybe you can zoom out. No, I'm sure there's a way of zooming, but anyway. Is there someone with the answers? I don't know. Ah, got it. There we go. I may as well just show you. Yeah, there we go. We'll do that. All right. Don't go Googling Peepee Pyramid because you'll get like a bunch of anti-Semitic conspiracy theories. So these are ideas that I have been just messing around with in my head, all right? So over that journey between Stream and BlockLab, I've been experimenting with a bunch of different ideas, and I've never told anyone. I've told a couple of people. I never sort of published them, never talked about them before. But with BlockLab, it was really exciting because I got to try and put them into practice. Some of the ideas didn't work. Here's 3 that did. I want to tell you about them, and maybe they can be something that'll work for you. Peepee Pyramid. So I had this idea on stage. Put your hand up if you also have had a good product idea before. Most of the room, except for you. Oh, no, you have, all right. Yeah, so the bottom of the pyramid is a product. That actually, a lot of people treat products pretty seriously. A lot of people that, like I've had clients, maybe you have before, who are like, oh, got this thing I want you to work on for me, but you got to sign an NDA because I don't want anyone else to find out about it. But the truth is, product ideas happen all the time. They're actually really easy to come by. There's the old saying, I guess it's not that old, that you should treat your product ideas like cattle, not like pets, right? Because you should be able to easily get rid of them if they're not a good fit. All right, so that's a product idea. The next thing that you need, which is a little bit harder to get when you're thinking about launching a product, is you need the right place. And I don't necessarily mean geographically. Depending on the product, that might be important. But you need the right place in terms of your industry, maybe a bit of your reputation, the people that you know, all right? So if you're, I don't know, so take me, I'm really involved in WordPress, web publishing, that sort of thing. I could have the greatest idea right now for Guitar Studio or a mining improvement, but I don't know anyone in that space, yeah? I don't have any connections, so a lot of people try and pursue ideas that aren't really related to what they already know, and I think more often than not, those ideas aren't successful because you don't have the right place. And place also is a place in time. So I was thinking about this idea that I had at WordCamp Sydney, and I thought, is it the right place? Well, it certainly is the right place for me. I know a lot about Gutenberg. I've got some friends in WordPress. But is it the right place in time? And I realized, yeah, Gutenberg's not even out yet a year ago. It's coming soon. We could be first to market. We could be there when it launches, right? It's the right place and time. So to all of you who've had a good product idea before, maybe try and filter that and think, that product idea, was it in my niche? Was it in my industry? And also, was it before its time, maybe? Or maybe it was a bit late to market, all right? So that sort of narrows the field for a lot of product ideas. Do you know what I mean? Do you agree? So the next thing that's important, and the absolute hardest to find, is you need the right people. And people is hard because not only do you need the right skill sets to be able to pull this thing off, but you need 3 people, or I'll tell you about why 3 people in a second, but you need people who'll work together, who'll form a good team, and even harder, you need people who are able to sort of put time towards your idea, right? Put time towards this new product, people who can invest themselves. So many talented people are already so busy, so it's really, really difficult to find the people you need to launch a product. That's why it's the top of the pyramid. If you can find those people, you're onto a winner. Actually, I just had an idea. I haven't okayed this with anyone, but I noticed that there's a hallway spot at 11-ish. I'm going to hang out there at 11, and if anybody wants to come and join me, we could sort of work our way backwards through here, and we might be able to find a group of people who could, depending on their individual skill sets and industries, we could figure out what a good place, what a good area to work on is, and then think about what a product idea might be. Now, that's not what I did for Block Lab, but I reckon working backwards might make a lot of sense. So I'm going to be there around 11 if anybody wants to come and hang out with me, and maybe we can figure something out there. So after WordCamp Sydney, must have been a Monday, I was in the Sydney airport, and I'd been just chewing over this idea, right? I couldn't get it out of my head. I knew I had a good product idea. I knew I had the right place. We'll talk about validation, or maybe we won't, because validation is a whole nother talk, but I just had this really strong gut feeling I was onto something, but I thought, can I get the people? Right? Because that's the hardest part. So I give my mate Rob a call. He's a marketing guy, and he says, yeah, that's amazing, I'm in. I give a couple of other people a call, and don't have the time. I give Reynard a call. He's one of the best developers I know, and tell him the idea, and he says, that sounds amazing. And I realized then that I had the right subset of people for my indie founder Zen-Venn diagram. So this is another idea that I've been toying with, and it just, this for us worked incredibly well. And I say indie here because I'm not talking about some startup that is going to get VC investment and 100x. All right, I'm talking about the sort of startup that is going to do, but the long-term vision is 1 to 10 mil, and if it does more than that, fantastic. And maybe that's 5 years away. That sort of size of a startup. Like an indie startup, right? So that's what I was building. And I believe that you need 3 people to start, to have a real good shot at an indie startup. You need 3 founders, okay? And these 3 founders have each got to have their own separate skill set. So, as for me, I put myself in the product role. All right, so I call myself a product designer, at least in this sense. Now, you want a product designer because you need someone who's going to understand the customer, right, going to understand a bit of UX, and understand how things should work, understand the industry broadly. It's going to be able to bring that sort of thing to the table. Okay? This is a person who might even design some of the interfaces, right? So do a bit of UI design. Pretty important, wouldn't you agree? To have someone who understands your customer and your industry. All right, understands what the product is fundamentally, what it ought to do, understands the vision for the product, all of that sort of thing. Then, of course, you need a technical lead, an engineer, a programmer, someone who can actually build the thing, and you can't do it without that technical person, right? So wouldn't you agree that that person is equally important? And now, with these 2 people, you might get a product, but there's no point in having a product if nobody knows about it, if you're not making any sales. So you need, equally as important, a sales, marketing person. And depending on what your startup is, you might be more heavily towards sales or maybe more towards marketing. And the trick here of what works really well is to have a bit of overlap between these roles, if possible. So, yeah, I'm a product designer, but I'm not always the best, maybe with visual design. Our marketing guy, Rob, he has got a bit of an eye for visual design, so him and I could work more closely together there. the technical lead, maybe they've got a bit of a Twitter following or something like that. They can be good on a sales call or in a podcast, and so they've got a little bit of that marketing. And the product designer understands a bit of the technical. You understand a bit of overlap between these three roles. And why 3 people? Because one person, even if they're successful, nobody's going to enjoy working for like the dictator. And actually, more often than not, one person, you're going to be pretty lonely, all right? So you lose that zen. It's not as exciting. It's not as easy to get by. 2 people, yeah, you could make it work, maybe. But the moment you have a disagreement, you got a 50-50 split, and you can't get along, and things get sticky, and you lose your zen, all right? 3 people, you got the tiebreaker. 4 people, you lose your tiebreaker. 5 people, you're splitting your shares too much. You don't want that. You want to keep as much as possible. Does that make sense? All right, so that's the indie founder Zen Ven. So I'm on the phone to Reynard in the airport. The flight is boarding, and he's going, yeah, that sounds like a good idea. I say to Reynard, look, I can't talk much longer, but do you think we could build a prototype in 1 week? And he gave what every technical person's response to that is, which is, hell no, I couldn't do that. I said, yeah, but what if we just had 1 week to work on this? What could we build? So what I had in mind here was a prototype. And in the product world, the big 3-letter acronym that you hear all the time is MVP, all right? I hate that. You ask any product person worth their salt, and they'll tell you MVP is the most misused, most misapplied, corporatized term. It's a waste of time because nobody understands what viable is. Nobody understands what the minimum is, all right? So what I prefer to use is let's build a prototype. And a prototype, it just does 2 things. 1, it proves that technically this can be built. It's achievable technically, okay? We've got a technical path to make whatever we're building happen. 2, it replaces your pitch deck, okay? Pitch decks are boring. Slides, I hate them. Instead, give someone something that's interactive. When you want to get buy-in, when you want to get validation from your customer base or your market, instead of saying, oh, here's this idea, what do you think, would you buy it, and showing them a slide deck, give them something that they can install themselves. Give them something they can use and get a feel for. And the feedback might be, it's not quite there. It needs this feature and it needs that feature, but I can see potential, right? That's the feedback that you're looking for. And so with a prototype, it's just a replacement for that other validation method. So we went with this 3rd option, which is the early access launch plan. So I was kind of inspired by what I've seen a lot of games do on Steam. Is anyone a gamer? Nobody, okay. Well, a lot of games, what they'll do is they'll release an early version, you pay less for it, and you get access to it sooner, and then they continue to iterate. And it's a great idea because you're getting money sooner, and more importantly, you're getting validation sooner. Everyone in product will always tell you that you can get you can ask 1,000 people in the room, you could ask, would you buy this product? And maybe 900 of them will say, yeah, sure, I'll buy that product. Yeah, that sounds like a good idea. And then you say, all right, here's a terminal. Give me your credit card number. It costs $30. And then you'll only get 10, right? Because there's a huge difference between someone saying, yeah, I like that, and actually forking out some money for it. So my idea here was we want to get people invested into the idea as early as possible. That's how we know that we're onto something. So we started with a prototype, and we built that in 1 week, okay? And at that point, at the 1 week mark, we put it on WordPress.org. We're going to explore a freemium model. So we knew that we were going to have a free and a premium. And so we took that, we took the free, we're going to release the free version of it straight away on WordPress.org, and that's what we did. And it was rough, okay? And because we were inspired by advanced custom fields, we called it advanced custom blocks. All right, makes sense. We put it out there and started to get some feedback. And I posted about it in WP Australia. Is anyone on the WP Australia Slack? You should be. If you're involved in WordPress day-to-day, get on that Slack. It's an amazing community. And so I posted about it there, asked for some feedback. A lot of feedback started coming in, a lot of positive feedback. D. Teal said to me, oh, I don't know about the name. The name's a bit derivative. Maybe you could come up with something else. And so I went back to the guys. Actually, this is why having 3 people was really helpful, because I said, I like advanced custom blocks. I think we should keep it. And the other 2, they said, yeah, I don't know. And I said, no, really, this is my idea. I think it's right, And they said, no, we should change it. We're going to change it. All right, so I got overruled, which is a great thing. You need people to disagree with you. And I'm so glad I did, because I think it would have been a bad mistake to make. All right, so we launched this 1 week, starting to get positive feedback. The next 3 months, this is what we did. We made a list of every feature we wanted in the Pro and every feature we wanted in the free, and we just worked on the free stuff, okay? So we started getting that out. We're releasing updates, we're fixing things, we're addressing technical debt for 3 months. Now, I should say, we're doing this part-time, okay? We're doing this like 1 day a week. There's 3 of us. Reynard left early on. We found another one to replace him, Ryan. I started thinking about changing my name to something that starts with an R, and we continued to iterate on the free version to get it sort of up to speed where we'd be really happy with it over the course of 3 months. At the 3-month point, we had a solid free plugin. We looked at our list of what are the premium plugins that we want to, premium features that we want to release. And we said, all right, this one feature is going to be easy to make and pretty valuable. So we'll create a premium version, and we'll have it with just that one feature out of all of them, right? And during these 3 months, we also developed a website, did the social media stuff, emails, and we launched what we called an early access version. So right here, we got the prototype launch. Oop. And over here, we got early access. So now we put up our website and we start directing people, through the marketing channels to go check out our early access version. And the sell was pretty simple. We'll give it to you cheap. In fact, we'll give it to you lifetime cheap. Okay, we're going to give you 70% off, and no matter what the price is, every year, because we've got a recurring yearly subscription, we're going to give you 70% off every year, because you backed us early, because you believed in the project, okay? That's a very, very compelling model to a lot of people. And what else? We said you'll get access to the premium features as we develop them. So then we're able to work on the premium features, and as we did that, we released updates to the Pro plugin, and they got one feature at a time, right, over the course of this premium sort of phase. And of course, a lot of work sort of went back into the free plugin, a lot of like bug fixes and maintenance updates and things like this. So we're working on both during these 6 months, and still just a day a week, all right? But what happens is we start getting sales. We start getting money in because people are starting to buy the early access version, all right? And it's a great model, because what happened then is I could work a whole day a week and get paid for it, and still putting in a lot of my time for free, but I'm starting to get paid for this product now that doesn't actually have a full premium version yet. We start to make a bit more money out of this early access, and we're iterating on the feature set. So we get towards the end of this 6 months, and we're getting ready to do like the full Pro launch. There was one more feature that we wanted to develop. We knew it was going to need a big push. We had enough money by this point to easily cover the expenses of flying Ryan in. He lives in Mexico, so we flew him to Brisbane. The three of us rented a place on the Sunshine Coast by the beach, and for a week, we just hacked at the plugin. We all took a week off work, right? And for just a week, we worked on the last feature of the Pro version, right? And we spent just a small portion of the money that we'd made during the early access. We also, during this time, employed someone to write technical documentation, which is a gap that we had. Nobody really likes writing technical documentation. So we started to get docs up, which are really important. And we spent this week, we sponsored WordCamp Brisbane with the money that we'd made from the early access, and we launched Pro. As soon as we launch, the sale disappears, right, and we launch at the full price. And we've got a product now. We've got a product on the market that's been around for a while, and it was around early. It was one of the very first ones, right? It was around even before Gutenberg launched, because we launched it straight away, right at the prototype phase, and it's gotten better and better over time. Does that make sense? So this model has worked extraordinarily well for us. And I don't think I've seen it anywhere in WordPress before. I think it works well enough that other people should give it a shot. I want to make a point about how we did the technical side of licensing the plugin. So first of all, we're using easy digital downloads on our website. So we're running our website, selling it with EDD. I don't really like WooCommerce because of all of the nags and install Jetpack, and it seems like really heavy, and it just seems overkill. We're not shipping to anyone, so EDD seemed like a great fit for us. And just one add-on. We just use the licensing add-on. And what that does is it enables EDD to have software licenses that can renew, and even better, it gives our website like an API endpoint that the plugin can go and hit to validate licenses. So just those two plugins on the website, and we've got like a full licensing system. We did write like one class, one bit of code to support that, and it was really lightweight. Another thing that we did, which again I think could be done more in WordPress, is how do you ship a freemium plugin? All right, so you have sort of three different models. One is you've got the free version of the plugin, and then you buy the Pro, and then you deactivate the free version, upload the Pro version, and activate it. All right, so that works well, except for a couple of problems. One is you've got two code bases that you've got to manage, and that's difficult, right? And the other problem is that it's a bad user experience, right? Your user has to like go find your website, download the plugin, go back to their WordPress install, upload it again, delete the other one. It's just not a great user experience. Would you agree? So maybe we can make it a bit easier. What we'll do instead is we've got the premium version. We'll just extend the premium version with the free version with the premium features. So it's a smaller code base maybe, and it sort of sits on top of the free code base, extends it like any other add-on would, and we'll ship that separately. But now you've got this problem of people still have to go and download the premium version, and now they've got two plugins active in their WordPress install. And that's not, like, I know a couple of plugins that do that, and it's kind of annoying, don't you think? Is it just me? Like, I just don't like having that extra. And so what we chose to do is we actually ship all of the premium features with the free version. They all ship as one. It's just one plugin. And what that allows us to do is we have like an admin screen. You can type in your code that you get from the website, hit activate, and you've instantly got the Pro version. All right? No other plugin installing or uploading or anything like that. Now the downside is that it's really easy to hack. anybody can come in and go. We literally have a method in like the main plugin class that just is pro, and it returns true or false, right? So if you wanted to, you can just, it's very easy to find. We didn't try and hide it or that one. We didn't try and hide it. And you can just return true at the top of that method, and you'll have pro. All right, that's the downside. It's true. But also, all of the other plugins, they're on the GPL websites, they're on the nulled website. You can go to GitHub and search and find the pro versions of any plugin you want if you really want to, if you're interested in that. And when you do, you'll get an old version. And with this method that I'm suggesting, as soon as your plugin updates, and it will receive updates, you'll be back to your code base will reset, and you'll be back to the free version. So it's a trade-off, but it's a trade-off that I'm okay with. When are you talking, man? Have I missed your talk?
It's the new one.
Yeah. All right. Okay, so I think that model, it works really nicely. We trust our users, of course, and the other benefit is that anyone can come along and contribute on GitHub to the free or the premium version very easily, and we don't have to sort of port their pull request to another repo or anything like that. So it makes it a lot easier for us. So that's that. All right, so I've told you about how we went about launching a custom, a freemium plugin in the course of about 9 to 10 months, and it's doing really, really well. And I hope that some of these ideas will help you, focusing on product, place, and people before you start on your product idea, making sure you've got those key pieces in place. Trying to find the right team is really important. You want these 3 key roles of a sales, marketing, technical lead, and a product designer or a product manager with a good amount of overlap between those roles. Of course, if the people on the team get along nicely, that's a bonus. And then you've got this early access model that happens a lot in the sort of gaming world, but I've not seen in WordPress, and I think could work really nicely. Thank you, everyone, for your attention. I hope that there was something valuable there, and I'd like to take any questions. We'll go up the front.
Thanks a lot for that talk. It was really informative. Just curious, have you reached a year now? I remember roughly early when you were coming out, but you've passed a year and people have continued on with your...
Yeah, so we launched early access in February. We launched the prototype in November. So yeah, we'll probably hit the year anniversary without realizing it at some point. Yeah.
Congratulations, but I was just curious whether you had passed the year from the early access. So are you seeing people resubscribe?
We haven't passed the year. Part of this, actually, I'm glad you brought it up, is what we did with the early access is we said to our customers, we will reset your subscription. It was the 1st of September, because we must have launched Pro just before then. So what we did for all of our customers who backed us in early access, we said, whether you backed us in February, March, or in August, your subscription will reset on the 1st of September 2020. So we sort of gave them that little bit of extra leeway. So we're waiting for that point before we see the resubscription numbers coming through. One thing about the early access model that I think has been really interesting is that during this 6 months here, we had a conversion rate. So I'm measuring active installs on WordPress.org, and I'm measuring sales, okay? We had a conversion rate of around 6%, which is super high. Right? Most plugins are doing 2 to 3%, maybe less. And we were at 6% during that early access phase. It's hard to say exactly why, but I think it's got something to do with that lifetime discount and sort of you're selling more than just the product. You're sort of selling the dream. You're sort of selling, this is our idea, invest in us, believe in us, and I think that contributes to a higher conversion rate. I'll go over here, just to, otherwise I might forget the sides.
The plugin directory has a rule something along the lines, you can't have any disabled functionality in a plugin. How do you get around that?
Yeah, it's a good question. We've come across that particular sort of, what's it called, section of the guidelines, and that is a particular reading of it that could come up. I have read that and sort of feel like our plugin fits within the guidelines, as that's my interpretation. At the end of the day, I figure we're entrepreneurs, right? We're startup people. We ask for forgiveness, not for permission. So if that comes up in the future, and it may well do, then we'll change models. It won't be hard to do though, because the way that we've built the plugins is very modular, and it'll be easy to switch that out.
Fantastic talk. Thank you, Luke. Can I ask you about pricing? It seems to be a sort of mystery, I think, for many plugin owners. I know we've tried pricing anywhere between $49 and $3.99, and both work very well. And for me, I know I prefer to have a few number of high-paying customers rather than lots of low-paying. What sort of thought went into your pricing strategy?
Yeah, great question. Of course, it depends on what your product is. Depends how much value you're providing. Depends how business critical what you're doing is. Generally, I think plugins are underpriced for the most part. I don't know if you saw, but ACF recently moved to a yearly subscription, which I think is a fantastic idea for Elliot. Is Elliot at WordCamp Sydney, by the way? No? Okay. Well, if you're watching this, hi, Elliot. I think it was a really good move. Yearly subscription, I think, is really important. Otherwise, you're going to have support burdens down the track. And I think most customers understand that. Certainly when ACF moved, a lot of the feedback on Twitter was very, very positive. And I think for a lot of agencies, they like to know that something is going to be around in the future. For a lot of businesses, they want to know that they're investing their entire workflow into something that's going to be around in the long term. So I think it's better to have a subscription than not. I think it's more valuable to people. In terms of how much to price, we went with a single site, 5-site, unlimited sites model. That's, I don't know, it's too soon to tell you how well it's working, because actually I think 90% are single sites. And we chose the $99 price point, and we're just sort of experimenting with that. I don't have a better answer, unfortunately.
How do you handle support? Which one of you in your
That's a good question.
Zenman? Who does the
Let's look at the Zenman. All right. So one thing that I didn't talk about, we could make a whole new section here. Let's make it. That's just so important. I don't know, what's it look like? It looks something like a... You've got to dog food. You've got to be dog fooding your plugin. And do you know what that means? It means you've got to be using it yourself all the time. And for us, this was such a valuable tool because we got to use it in other work situations. So our marketing guy, Rob, he's got another job where he's using BlockLab every single day. And so he's dog fooding the product. He's eating his own dog food. And so when it comes to support, I think it sort of falls into the same category. if you've got like this core founder team, every single one of the three of you should be contributing to support, and that's what we do. So we do support in two ways. We channel one through Help Scout, and channel two is on WordPress.org. And as soon as we see something come up, one of the three of us will just jump in and answer it. As you know, we're in different time zones, some of the time, and we'll just jump in as soon as we see anything. And luckily we built our product with like very, very little technical debt. We're very like passionate about coding standards, all the rest of it. And so we get maybe like 2 support topics a week. So it's definitely easy to handle. It's definitely something to consider when you're starting something new. You've got to think that if you're outsourcing your development overseas, and a lot of people choose to do that, a lot of the time you'll end up with a product that's subpar in terms of like the coding standards, in terms of its accessibility, things like that. And that has its own cost, all right? So down the track, you're going to have to refactor. If you want to add a new feature, it's going to take longer, and your support burden is going to be much higher. Okay, so that was a really important thing for us, is to have a solid plugin core foundation. And so because of that, we don't get much support, and the three of us jump in and answer support ourselves. And what that allows us to do is go, oh, there is a bug. I can actually fix that really quickly because I'm a developer. Or, that is an interesting use case I'd not thought before. I'm the product designer, and now I can take that type of user into account. And all sorts of benefits from doing support yourself. One day, as we grow, maybe we need to outsource some of that first level stuff. But I'll probably leave that later, as late as possible. Do we have time for more questions? Or
has anyone got another question? This will be the last one.
Thanks, Luke.
You're welcome.
Question about you prototyping quite early. Is that because, I don't know if it's technically proving, but you had the technical expertise to do so, and you jumped the wireframing?
Yeah, we absolutely jumped wireframing. We jumped design. We jumped all of that. All right. Hopefully, whatever you're doing, you've got someone with a technical lead, and hopefully, like in our case, there's quite a lot of overlap here between the product designer and the technical. And so what that meant was that I could work really closely with that technical person over the course of 1 week, where we sort of really focused in, and I could say, oh, let's move that over here, and I think this is going to fit better. And it's not necessarily planning it all out in advance, but having a bit of an idea as you go. It's just rough, right? The prototype isn't supposed to look pretty. And the reason why it's better, I think, to do it that way is because when you're wireframing, sometimes it can be nice, especially for a new feature as opposed to like a whole new product, but you're not considering all of the use cases if it's just one person. So as a product designer, I prefer to like let lots of people use my product and go, oh, that doesn't work, or we need to move this section over here, or this is taking up too much space, people don't use that, and sort of start to use that information as opposed to just try and, so I make my best decision, we do it on the fly, but I'm not attached to it. Hopefully that answers your question. Totally skipped the design phase.
All right. Would everyone like to thank Luke for his amazing presentation?